I like to use the term that creativity is going to be the number one currency. So when we think about our community, creativity is not lacking. But what I think that is there is in the past has always been this barrier. However, with this technology and AI, and just even using the common term that people know about generative AI tools, because AI, it's many different branches. Robotics is considered AI. Computer vision, which is basically how your computers and your technologies, hardwares actually see through human eyes, is called computer vision. So that's also considered a branch of AI. But more importantly, when I think about creation, the barriers to entries it's just completely eroding. Now, you have this term where people are saying vibe coding, where you actually don't have to have a computer science degree or knowledge of coding to actually code and build something. So you have these AI tools that you can, and platforms that you can utilize. So what I would really encourage our community to do is to really sit down and say, well, what do I want to bring to the world? What do I see that is missing? And because we've often been on the fringe, the simple fact that you actually have these different frame of reference is in fact innovation, because innovation is something that does not exist in the market. And that's what a lot of times people think innovation has to be this grand, big idea. It's really about something that doesn't exist in the market that also can potentially aid to the market, disrupt the market. It can be many different things. So for me, when I think about even people I'm working with, and I'm thinking about companies I've consulted, I like to say, architecting or creating solutions. So if you have any ideas, whether it's something about, it could be about fashion, it could be anything about solving a financial gap, something that you're seeing as a pain point within your local community or even on a global scale. I think now is the time for people to actually start to sit down and start to ideate, start to jot down their notes, start to jot down their ideas. Don't worry about, well, how will I make the solution come to life? Because now you have a tool that can serve as that guide in that back pocket. It's a wealth of information. So the two main tools that I'm using, one, it is ChatGPT, and then it's also Gemini. I'm starting to use more of the AI, artificial intelligence tools embedded in certain platforms, such as if I'm writing a newsletter in MailChimp, they have things that are embedded. If I'm using Asana to build out a project plan. But specifically, if I talk about ChatGPT, I'm using it as sort of as a subject matter expert or business consultant to give me frameworks, because we have that intelligence. We have what we call that ancestral intelligence. People who are connected to this earth, you have this innate ability to see things, to know when things are good or bad, or even when we think about sustainability. Primarily the Black community or indigenous communities, we know how to work and build and have a sustainable life that also respects nature. So taking that ancestral intelligence and saying, okay, what do I want to create? And then asking the tool more of a conversation. So one of the things I wanted to put together a business plan. And I said, can you give me the 5 common things of building a business plan for a nonprofit I should be thinking of? And then it starts to give me that. Okay, now I'm starting to add my ideas. Then I go back and I iterate. So it doesn't mean that you just have to have a continuous thought. Now I started to ask, okay, now that you gave me these 5 things, here's what I'm thinking about. Can you consult and give me a guidance on how I should navigate on this journey of taking my ideas to actually create a business plan for either this target audience or for me to get funding? So it's not necessarily saying, hey, I want you to write everything for me, but think of the tool as something that can also augment your own intelligence and your own ideas and serve as a consultant to help you bring it to life.
You know, there's a few different things that you touched on that we're gonna have to sit here for a moment, because as you know, part of the show that I have, you know, Becoming Big Mama, it's really like, it started from a place where, like, you know, if I could ask my grandmother about this time that I'm living in, she would probably tell me, honey, ain't nothing new under the sun, right? She would first try to ground me in, like, stop thinking that it's like this sort of like us versus them, or this or that, or this black or white, and look at it more in the same thing, yet a different thing at the same time, right? And, you know, I want to kind of talk a little bit about, like, what piece of wisdom has kind of been something that you've been, you know, that has been motivating you through this journey of building what you've built with Self-eSTEM, you know, getting you through even those corporate moments where you were kind of like deciphering and translating and building, you know, your career and your confidence toward this point. But, like, what piece of wisdom has kind of, you know, saw you through, or, you know, motivated you, and where did it come from, or who did it come from?
Yes. One of the piece of wisdom that really helped me, and I kind of alluded to it about skill set. So when I started off in my first job after college, I had my manager who was also my mentor. And one of the things that he said to me is, don't hitch your wagon to one vertical, meaning that just don't become a subject matter expert in one industry. So like, say, for instance, hey, I want to become a subject matter expert in I'm just going to use the healthcare industry as an example, in the healthcare industry. Okay, but what about the healthcare industry do you want to be a subject matter expert in? Now that you have it, so let's just say I'm doing it in medical billing, right? But if you're going to be an expert in that, you need to understand it from the horizontals, meaning now that I understand about the vertical and expert of medical coding and billing, but what is the software? What does the back end look like? What are the key processes? Who are the key stakeholders in there? So it's starting to understand whatever topic or vertical that you're in. It's really starting to build those skill sets and that knowledge from a horizontal lens. So I kind of call it building yourself as a matrix or multifaceted expert. And so for me, with my career journey of working for a lot of the tech companies, managing and forecasting like multi-billion-dollar workforce plans, what I wanted to become as an expert is, if a leader and executive stepped to me and asked me a question about their workforce, or where should we go and find talent, really seeing myself as sort of a workforce or a career architect, providing solutions that I may not necessarily have the answer for everything that they're asking, but I know how to go and find it because I have expertise and knowledge across the horizontals. So that's when I'm working in HR and I'm thinking about people analytics, I actually understand the system. How is the back end data designed in our system? So if they're seeing some type of issue with information about the dashboard, I can say, oh, you know what? Let me go talk to this team about it, because I understand how that information is being surfaced and provided to them. If we're thinking about a gap in driving a solution or a recommendation, it could be a policy issue. I'm not saying that I'm an HR business partner, but I understand, how HR business partner would impact my vertical if I think about people analytics and workforce planning. So for me, that's something that really stood out for me. But it goes back again to my turn of just really about having that growth mindset, being adaptable, and just always continuously learning. That is the one thing that I can say, is that having the ability to learn, having that adaptive intelligence is really a critical skill set that I think that is often overlooked, because right now with this AI information age, you and I can go and build things that in the past that will literally require for maybe us to have a 4-year degree. But now we have tools that can really bridge the gap. So having that adaptability and that growth mindset to say, hey, I can actually move past this. If I actually come up with something, I can make it come to life, and I can push myself to learn and pick up the information on the journey, is really going to be truly invaluable in the future.
I think this moment, what it means for me is AI can be obviously so many different things. People have been using it as a therapist. People have been using it as a business consultant. I know you do a lot of mentoring, and helping, young communities, not just young girls, but young communities of all kind, understand their strengths and their opportunities in STEM, like right now, which is great. And I feel that AI, because it can be so many different things, it can also be like this mentor or this like to Black people who might have been blocked before, or people of color that might have been kept out of conversations and out of rooms and out of opportunities. There is also like AI could just be like a white whisperer.